I never thought the man who married my daughter would one day look me in the eye and tell me I was being replaced. My name is Daniel Mitchell. I'm 71 years old, a retired pastor from a quiet town called Meadowbrook, Texas. I've lived in this house for 30 years. I've buried friends, raised children, and found peace here. But that Tuesday morning, peace walked out the door when my son-in-law, Tyler Brooks, walked in. He stood in my living room with his hands in his pockets, his tie too tight, and a fake smile on his face. "Dan," he said, "my parents are moving in tomorrow." I stared at him, thinking he must be joking. But his eyes were cold. He wasn't. That sentence hit harder than any sermon I'd ever given or any loss I'd ever faced. He said it so calmly, like it was a done deal. Then he added, "And you'll be moving to assisted living." I just blinked. My living room, the same room where I'd raised 47 foster children, suddenly felt smaller. My heart pounded in my chest. "The moving truck's already booked," he continued. "Friday we pack. Saturday you move out. My parents need more space, and you've got too much for one man." Too much for one man. He said it like I was just taking up space that belonged to someone else. But Tyler didn't know something important. He didn't know those 47 children I'd raised had grown up. He didn't know they were doctors now. Judges. Business owners. Soldiers. Parents. He didn't know that when you threaten the man who raised 47 kids, you're not just dealing with one old man. You're dealing with 47 lives he helped build. Tyler laid out his plan like it was a business meeting, day by day, hour by hour. Tuesday announcement. Friday packing. Saturday eviction. Everything scheduled like clockwork. I watched him talk. He had that sharp confidence of a man who thought he'd already won. But I wasn't thinking about losing. I was thinking about my phone. Because there were people I could call, people who owed me nothing, but would drop everything if I asked. He finished his speech with a polite smile. "You'll love Sunset Gardens," he said. "They have activities and community meals. It's perfect for you." Perfect. That word burned in my ears. I smiled back at him. "Tyler," I said quietly, "you have no idea what you've started." He left the house that day proud of himself. I sat in my old recliner, staring at the wall where 47 graduation pictures hung in neat rows. Every face on that wall had a story. Every story started in this house. And this house, this little brick house on a quiet Texas street, was about to remind Tyler Brooks what real family means. For years, Tyler had looked at me like I was a placeholder in my own daughter's life. "You're not her real father," he'd said once. "You just happened to be there." I'd smiled at the time, because arguing with pride never wins. But inside, that sentence cut deep. He saw a retired pastor driving a 2007 Honda Civic, wearing worn shoes and shopping at thrift stores. He saw a man with simple habits, not knowing that behind those habits stood 3 decades of sacrifice and love. Every corner of my house holds a memory. The kitchen table where we said prayers before meals. The hallway lined with photos of my kids' graduations. The old couch where broken children sat crying on their first night, unsure if they were safe. Tyler never noticed. He only saw square footage. He saw rooms he wanted for his parents. I saw rooms filled with history. That small bedroom at the back. That's where Emma, 8 years old, sleeps right now. Her parents died in a car crash 3 months ago. She came here scared and silent, but she smiles now. She calls me Mr. Dan. Tyler called it the spare room. To him, this house was property. To me, it was a sanctuary. He didn't understand what he was really taking. If I gave up this house, I'd lose my foster license. No more emergency placements. No more kids like Emma finding safety here. And Tyler wanted all that, gone, for a bigger living room. But this wasn't just about the house. It was about love. About family. About what makes a home sacred. Maris, my daughter, was only 7 when she came to me. Abused, scared, silent. It took a year before she'd even say a word. 11 years later, she called me Dad for the first time. That word meant everything to me. And now her husband was telling her that word didn't matter. He said biology mattered more than love. He said blood made family. I'd spent my life proving otherwise. That night, after Tyler's announcement, I sat by the window watching the Texas sunset. The sky burned orange and gold. I thought about all those kids, all those years. Some had arrived with nothing but a backpack and a broken heart. Some had stayed months. Others stayed years. Each one left better than they came. Amanda Rodriguez came here at 13, angry at the world. Now she's a pediatric surgeon in Dallas. Marcus Williams, he hid in closets for a month when he first arrived. Today, he's a federal judge in D.C. Patricia Johnson came here sick and fragile. Now she runs a tech company worth millions. And yet, Tyler looked at me and saw a man wasting space. He saw a house ready to be taken. But he had no idea that this house was protected by every life that ever passed through it. The next Sunday, Maris called. Her voice shook through the phone. Dad, I'm so sorry for what he said. I didn't know. It's not your fault, sweetheart, I told her. But I think it's time your husband learned something about family. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, What are you going to do? I'm going to make a few phone calls. That night, I unlocked the drawer in my desk. Inside were letters, cards, and business cards from all over the country. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez. Judge Marcus Williams. CEO Patricia Johnson. Every one of them had written the same thing at least once: if you ever need anything, Dad, call me. I looked at those cards and smiled. It's time, I whispered. The next morning, my phone started ringing. Dad, I heard, Amanda said. You want me to handle this? Her voice carried authority now, the kind that comes from saving lives every day. Just a misunderstanding, I told her. Not anymore, she said. Give me his name. By noon, Marcus had called too. Dad, I'm pulling some property law references. I'll fly in Friday. Then Patricia, Dad, I'll handle logistics. Expect a few guests this weekend. I didn't know what they were planning, but I knew one thing: Tyler Brooks had just started a fight he couldn't win. He thought I was alone. He was wrong. That Friday morning, I stood on my porch with a cup of coffee, watching the quiet street. For years, it had been just me, the birds, and the occasional neighbor's dog. But something was coming. Something big. Because Tyler had forgotten one thing: family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when it matters. And they were coming. All of them. By Saturday morning, he'd see it with his own eyes. What Tyler didn't know was that by sunrise, Meadowbrook Street would look like the parking lot of a Fortune 500 company, and my front yard would become the battlefield where he finally learned what real family means. Friday evening, the quiet town started to change. I could feel it in the air before I even heard the first car pull up. It was a soft hum at first, then headlights swept across my driveway, bright and steady. Out stepped Dr. Amanda Rodriguez in her white coat, still smelling faintly of hospital antiseptic and courage. She ran toward me and hugged me so tight I almost forgot she was a surgeon now. "Dad, you look good," she said, smiling. "Ready for a little reunion?" Before I could answer, another car stopped behind hers, a sleek black sedan with government plates. Marcus Williams climbed out, tall, calm, wearing that same serious face he used to hide behind when he was 9 and scared of the world. "Dad," he said quietly, and the word alone made my eyes sting. Then came Patricia Johnson, stepping out of a silver SUV that looked like it cost more than my whole house. She wore a crisp suit, and her confidence filled the yard. "We're not just here to visit," she said. "We're here to stand." One by one, the others arrived. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, pilots, a police lieutenant, a business owner, a soldier. 47 grown children, 47 lives that had once been broken and were now shining stronger than steel. By midnight, my driveway looked like a reunion of hope. The laughter was loud. The hugs were endless. My kitchen was crowded again, filled with the smell of coffee and cinnamon rolls that Amanda had picked up on her drive. Patricia spread a few papers on the table. "Tyler scheduled the moving truck for 9 a.m. Saturday," she said. "So we'll be here by 8. Marcus nodded. No anger, no yelling. Just truth. "He needs to see who you really are." I sat quietly, overwhelmed. "Kids," I said, "you don't need to do this." "He's just, Dad," Amanda interrupted softly. "You did this for us for 30 years. Now let us do it for you." I couldn't argue. That night, sleep didn't come easy. I walked through every room, the rooms Tyler had called extra space. Each wall whispered memories. The small handprints in the hallway paint. The worn couch that had held so many tears and laughs. The dining table that had seen countless prayers. These weren't just walls. This was life itself. At dawn, I poured my first cup of coffee and looked out the window. The street was quiet, for now. But by 8 o'clock, everything changed. Luxury cars lined both sides of Meadowbrook Street. Neighbors peeked through curtains. Children pointed and whispered. My yard filled with 47 adults standing shoulder to shoulder, wearing suits, uniforms, scrubs, and dresses. They looked like a small army of love. Amanda organized everyone in neat rows. Doctors on one side. Lawyers in the center. Teachers and officers on the right. Each one held a small sign with their name and job. When I saw it, Dr. Michael Chen, cardiothoracic surgeon. Judge Marcus Williams. CEO Patricia Johnson. Captain Maria Gonzalez. Detective Lieutenant Carlos Santos. My throat closed. I thought, this is my life's work standing on my front lawn. At 8:57, Tyler's truck turned onto the street. He slowed down when he saw the cars. Then he stopped. His face froze. He stepped out, trying to look confident, but I could see his hands trembling. Behind him came his parents, Robert and Linda Brooks, both holding folders and wearing polite smiles that quickly faded. The moving truck followed, big and loud, but it couldn't get near the house. The road was full. Tyler's voice cracked. What is this?" Amanda stepped forward. "Good morning, Mr. Brooks. We're Dan Mitchell's family." He blinked. "All of you?" "Yes," Marcus said, calm and firm. "We're the children he raised. Doctors. Judges. Teachers. Every one of us started in this house." Tyler laughed nervously. "This is crazy. You can't all be his kids. Patricia stepped closer. Maybe not by blood. But by love? Absolutely. One by one, they introduced themselves. 47 names. 47 titles. 47 stories of success. With each one, Tyler's confidence shrank. Robert Brooks whispered to his wife, "Linda, what have we walked into?" Linda's eyes were wet. These people love him. Finally, Marcus held up a document. "Legally speaking, Mr. Brooks, you have no authority here. You cannot remove a competent adult from his home. Your plan has no legal ground." Tyler's mouth opened, then closed. He looked around, desperate for support, but found none. Amanda turned to the crowd. "Dad," she said gently, "do you want to tell him what this house means?" I took a deep breath and stepped forward. The air was cool and still. Every face, my children, my neighbors, Tyler's parents, waited. "This house," I said slowly, "was never mine alone. It belongs to every child who ever needed a place to heal. Every tear, every prayer, every laughter lives in these walls. And you wanted to take that away for a bigger living room." Tyler swallowed hard. I just thought, "You thought blood makes family," I interrupted. "But it doesn't. Love does. Choice does." Amanda's voice was calm but fierce. "Mr. Brooks, my father doesn't need a nursing home. He built one in his heart for decades and opened it to children no one else wanted." Tyler turned toward the moving truck. "Cancel it," he muttered. "Cancel everything." The driver shrugged. "Whatever you say." Neighbors clapped softly. Someone whispered, "That's family." Tyler walked away, shoulders heavy, his parents trailing behind him. When they passed me, Linda stopped. "Mr. Mitchell," she said softly, "I didn't know." "We're so sorry." I nodded. "Now you do." By noon, the crowd thinned. The cars left. But the story didn't stop there. Someone had recorded the whole thing on their phone. By evening, the video was everywhere. Online. Shared. Loved. 50,000 views. People writing comments like, "This is what real family looks like." I sat in my chair that night, reading every message with a smile. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. It was the start of something bigger. Sunday morning, I went to church. Everyone hugged me like I'd survived a war. Mrs. Henderson, who'd been teaching Sunday school for 40 years, whispered, "You showed the world what love can do." But Tyler wasn't finished. That evening, he showed up at church. He walked right up to the pulpit during fellowship dinner and raised his voice. "Everyone needs to know the truth," he shouted. The hall fell silent. 40 people stared. Pastor Williams looked confused. Tyler opened a folder of papers, brochures, legal forms, medical documents, and started talking like he was leading a board meeting. "Dan Mitchell is too old to live alone," he announced. "He needs care. He needs supervision. He's holding on to a house that belongs to family." Mrs. Henderson rose from her chair, hands on hips. "Young man, that house belongs to a saint." Tyler ignored her. "My parents need housing. He needs help. It's a perfect arrangement." I watched him dig his own grave with every word. Pastor Williams tried to intervene. "Tyler, maybe this isn't the place." "No, Pastor," he snapped. "People should know the truth." Maris stood up then, her voice shaking. "The truth is you're cruel. The truth is you don't understand love." The room buzzed. Every eye was on us. I stood slowly. Tyler's right about one thing, I said. It's time for realistic decisions. And I plan to make one right now. He smirked, thinking he'd won. I'm calling my family, I said. And they're coming. He laughed. They already did. I smiled. Not all of them. The next morning, before the sun was even up, the rest of them started arriving: doctors, soldiers, teachers, and pilots, each one coming home to defend the man who had once defended them. I stood on my porch with my coffee cup, the sky still purple with dawn, and watched the headlights rolling in one by one. The first was a black SUV, followed by a silver BMW, then a long white Tesla that made no sound at all as it stopped in front of my mailbox. Doors opened, and voices filled the air. Dad! Mr. Dan! Pastor! Every name they called me was a story. Every face was a memory. Amanda Rodriguez, still in her scrubs, hugged me like she did when she was 15 and finally believed she was safe. Marcus Williams carried a leather folder under his arm, his eyes calm but sharp. Patricia Johnson stepped out, phone in one hand, latte in the other, her hair perfect despite the early hour. Morning, Dad, Patricia said. We came to make sure your piece stays exactly where it belongs, right here. Behind her came others. Carlos Santos, now a detective lieutenant, shook my hand with the same steady grip he'd learned fixing cars in my driveway. Maria Gonzalez, in full Air Force uniform, saluted me before hugging me so hard I thought my ribs might crack. And it didn't stop there. By 8 o'clock, the whole street was alive. 47 of my children, successful, proud, and strong, stood shoulder to shoulder across my front yard. The same yard where once I'd watched them play tag, scrape knees, and chase fireflies. Now they were grown. And they were here for me. The neighbors couldn't believe it. Curtains lifted, phones came out. Mrs. Peterson from across the street shouted, "Lord have mercy, Daniel, what's going on?" Family reunion, I said simply. At exactly 9 a.m., just like he'd planned, Tyler's pickup truck came down the street again. The moving van followed close behind, its loud engine echoing down Meadowbrook like a challenge. But this time, the challenge wasn't mine. Tyler's truck slowed, then stopped. He couldn't move forward. Cars filled both sides of the road, a line of polished chrome and power. His eyes darted from car to car, face pale. He rolled down his window and stared at the crowd in disbelief. When he finally stepped out, every head turned toward him. 47 pairs of eyes, steady and unflinching. Amanda stepped forward first. "Good morning, Mr. Brooks," she said. Her tone was calm but firm, the same tone she probably used in an operating room. "You remember me? I'm Amanda Rodriguez. I lived here 4 years." Tyler blinked. You're one of the kids?" "I'm one of the adults now," she corrected gently. "And this is my father." Marcus came next. "Judge Marcus Williams," he said, pulling out his badge. "Federal District Court, Washington, D.C. And you, sir, are trespassing on private property." Patricia folded her arms. "You thought you were dealing with an old man living alone," she said. "You were wrong." Tyler's parents stood behind him, frozen. Linda's eyes welled with tears. Robert looked down at the ground, ashamed. Amanda motioned to the group behind her. "You see these people? Every one of them started life broken, scared, unwanted. And every one of them found love here. This isn't just a house. This is a family." Tyler stammered, I didn't mean," Marcus cut him off. Intentions don't erase disrespect. You tried to remove a man from his home without cause, authority, or decency. Tyler's hands shook. It was just a misunderstanding. Patricia raised an eyebrow. Then maybe you should have understood before you acted. The moving truck driver leaned out his window. Hey buddy, you want me to unload or what? Tyler looked back at him helplessly. No, he muttered. Cancel it. What? The driver yelled. Cancel it. Tyler shouted, his voice cracking. Amanda nodded. Good choice. There was a stillness after that. No yelling. No anger. Just quiet power, the kind that comes from truth. I stepped forward. Tyler, I said softly, do you understand now? He nodded slowly, eyes down. This house isn't about space or property, I said. It's about the lives that were built here. You thought family meant blood. But family means showing up, even when it's hard, even when it costs you. He swallowed, unable to speak. Go home, son, I told him. Think about what kind of man you want to be. He turned and walked away without another word. His parents followed, silent, broken, and ashamed. That evening, the sun dipped low, painting the sky gold. My yard was still full of laughter. The kids, my grown-up kids, set up tables, brought food, and turned that painful morning into a celebration. Amanda grilled burgers. Patricia ordered pizza. Carlos played music from his truck. Dad, Marcus said, sitting beside me, you know this video is already everywhere, right? I smiled. What video? Someone filmed the whole thing. It's online. Half the town's already sharing it. I shook my head. Guess the world needed a reminder. By nightfall, we all sat around the fire pit, the one I built 20 years ago. Sparks flew into the sky, and for a moment, I saw those same kids they used to be, the scared, broken souls who once huddled around this same fire looking for warmth. Amanda leaned against my shoulder. Dad, she said softly, you saved us. No, I said. You saved yourselves. I just gave you a place to start. Marcus looked at the others. Maybe it's time we gave something back. Patricia smiled. I was thinking the same thing. They started talking ideas, scholarships for foster kids, donations to local programs, mentoring teens aging out of the system. Every one of them wanted to pay it forward. That's when Patricia looked up. We should start a foundation, she said. The Daniel Mitchell Foundation. For kids who need what we had. I blinked. You don't have to put my name on it. Amanda grinned. Oh, yes, we do. Laughter filled the air. By midnight, the plan was real. They'd fund it together, doctors, lawyers, business owners, soldiers, all pitching in to help kids like the ones they once were. As the last of them said goodnight, I stood on my porch, watching their taillights fade down the road. My heart felt full. But not everything was peaceful. Because even after all that, Tyler wasn't done. 2 days later, he showed up at the church again, this time alone. He stood up after the sermon, his face tight with anger. I just want to say, he began loudly, that not everything you saw online is true. The congregation turned to look at him. Pastor Williams frowned. Tyler waved a stack of papers. Dan Mitchell isn't the saint you all think he is. He's manipulating you. He used those kids for attention. A gasp moved through the room. Maris stood up in the front pew. Tyler, stop. He ignored her. He kept them here for years to make himself look like a hero. He's using this whole thing for fame. My hands clenched on the bench. For a second, the old preacher in me wanted to rise up and give him the sermon he deserved. But I didn't. Instead, I stood calmly. "Tyler," I said, "do you truly believe that?" He glared at me. "You fooled everyone." Then a voice came from the back. "Not everyone." Amanda stepped forward, still in her hospital coat. "I was one of those kids. I lived in that house for 4 years. He never asked for anything but honesty, effort, and love. Don't you dare call that manipulation." Then Marcus stood up. "He saved me from a system that gave up on me. He didn't just give me shelter. He gave me life." Patricia raised her voice. "You call that fame? I call it fatherhood." One by one, voices filled the room. "He helped me graduate. He taught me to believe. He gave me hope." 47 voices. The same voices that used to cry in the night. Now strong, loud, unbreakable. Tyler's voice faltered. His papers trembled in his hands. I just wanted what was fair." "Fair?" I said softly. "Fair is giving where you've received. Fair is loving where you've been loved. Fair isn't taking what you never earned." He stared at me, then looked at Maris. Her eyes were full of tears. "You wanted to destroy the only home that ever taught me what love means," she said. The silence that followed was heavy. Tyler looked around. Every face in that church was turned toward him, not with hate, but with disappointment. His shoulders slumped. He lowered his papers. And then he left. That night, Maris came home with Emma, the little girl who'd been staying with me. She ran straight into my arms. "Grandpa Dan," she squealed. "Grandpa Dan," Maris repeated softly. "She calls you that now?" I smiled. "Guess I got promoted." We laughed. We cried. We sat on the porch swing while crickets sang and the Texas night wrapped around us like a blanket. Life felt calm again. Peaceful. But stories like this don't end with peace. A few weeks later, I got a call from Tyler's mother, Linda. Her voice was small. "Mr. Mitchell, I thought you should know. Tyler lost his job. The video followed him. People recognize him everywhere." I stayed silent. "He's not the same," she continued. "He's quiet now. He knows he was wrong. He just doesn't know how to fix it." I sighed. "Maybe he'll learn. Maybe one day he'll understand." After that call, I went outside. The air was warm. I looked at the house, the windows glowing, laughter drifting from inside. And I thought about forgiveness. I'd spent 30 years teaching kids that mistakes don't define you. What defines you is what you do next. Maybe it was time for me to remember that lesson myself. That night, I wrote Tyler a letter. I didn't know if he'd ever read it, but I had to write it. I told him about the first night I became a foster parent. How scared I'd been. How much faith it took to open my door to strangers. How each child taught me something new about patience, pain, and love. And I ended it with one line: "You can still become family if you choose to." I sealed it, but I didn't mail it yet. Because I had a feeling, someday soon, Tyler would show up again. And I was right. 3 months later, I heard the sound of tires crunching on my gravel driveway. When I stepped outside, I saw Tyler standing there, thinner, older, and holding something in his hands that made my heart stop. It was the letter I'd written him. Unopened. He looked different. His eyes weren't sharp anymore. They were tired. Humble. The proud, confident man who once talked like he owned my future now looked like someone who had finally faced himself in the mirror. "Dan," he said quietly. "Can we talk?" I nodded and led him to the porch. The same porch where, months ago, I'd stood surrounded by 47 of my children defending the only home I'd ever known. Now it was just the two of us, the man who'd tried to take everything, and the man he'd almost broken. He sat down slowly, clutching the letter. "I didn't open it," he said. "I didn't think I deserved to." I said nothing. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. "I lost everything," he continued. "My job, my marriage, my reputation. Every time someone searched my name, that video came up. People whisper when I walk into a store. I can't escape it." He looked up, eyes glistening. "But I'm not here to ask for pity. I came to say I'm sorry." For a long moment, I just looked at him, really looked at him. Not as the man who hurt me, but as the scared boy beneath the arrogance. I'd seen that look before. In the eyes of almost every child who came to my door. Shame. Regret. The desperate need for forgiveness. "Tyler," I said softly, "you made mistakes. Big ones. But we all do. What matters is what we do next." He nodded slowly. "I want to be better. I want to be someone Maris and Emma can look at without pain in their eyes. I don't know how to start." I smiled faintly. "You just did." He looked confused. "By showing up," I explained. "Showing up is always the first step." He took a shaky breath. "Do you think Maris will ever forgive me?" "That's between you and her," I said. "But forgiveness isn't something you ask for once. It's something you prove every day." We sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind rustling the trees. The same sound that had comforted me on lonely nights now felt like a song of closure. Then, quietly, Tyler said, "I've been volunteering at a shelter downtown. They work with foster kids." I figured it was time I did something that mattered. I felt my throat tighten. "That's a good start, son." He flinched at the word "son," then smiled, a small, broken smile. "I don't deserve that word," he whispered. "Maybe not yet," I said gently. "But keep walking the path you're on. One day, you might." He looked out toward the yard, where the old oak tree stood tall. "It's funny," he said. "I used to see this house as just a building. Now I see why everyone calls it home." I chuckled softly. "Took you long enough." He smiled again, this time genuine. Can I stay for coffee?" I nodded. "Always." We sat there for hours, two men who had once been enemies, now just quiet souls trying to heal. When he finally stood to leave, he turned back and said, "Dan, I'm going to open the letter tonight. I think I'm ready." I watched him walk to his truck. For the first time, I didn't see arrogance in his stride. I saw humility. Growth. Humanity. As his taillights disappeared, I whispered, "Come home whenever you're ready." The next few months passed peacefully. The Daniel Mitchell Foundation had become official. My children, doctors, judges, CEOs, teachers, had created something I never dreamed possible. They opened offices, organized scholarships, and funded safe homes for children across Texas. News stations came calling. Journalists visited. They called me the pastor who raised a generation. But the truth was simpler. I wasn't special. I was just someone who believed no child should ever feel unwanted. One morning, I was planting flowers in the front yard when a car pulled up. Out stepped Emma, now 9, holding a bright yellow envelope. "Mail for you, Grandpa Dan," she shouted. I took it, smiling. The handwriting was familiar. Tyler's. Inside was a short note. Just 3 lines. I opened the letter. "You were right. Family is who stands by you, even when you don't deserve it. Thank you for showing me what love really looks like. I'll spend the rest of my life proving I understand now." I stared at those words for a long time. They weren't dramatic. They weren't flowery. But they were real. Honest. I folded the letter, slipped it into my Bible, and whispered a prayer. "Thank you, Lord, for another lost sheep finding his way home." Weeks turned into months. Then, one Sunday morning, something unexpected happened. I was sitting in my usual pew at church, listening to Pastor Williams preach about redemption, when the doors opened. Tyler walked in. Every head turned. Whispers spread through the congregation. He walked slowly, his suit clean, his shoulders straight, but his eyes still humble. Maris gasped softly beside me. He walked up to the front and stopped. "Pastor," he said, voice trembling, "may I say something?" Pastor Williams nodded. "Go ahead, son." Tyler turned to the crowd. "A few months ago, I stood in this very church and said awful things about a man who didn't deserve them. I thought family was about blood and entitlement. I thought love was something you earned. I was wrong. I was blind. And I hurt the people who tried to love me anyway." You could have heard a pin drop. He turned toward me. "Mr. Mitchell." "Dan." "Dad, I don't know if I deserve that word yet. But I want to earn it. Not by words, but by what I do next." Tears burned my eyes. The congregation rose to their feet. Some clapped. Some cried. Even Pastor Williams wiped his eyes. Maris stood, trembling. She walked to him slowly. Tyler froze, afraid to move. Then she wrapped her arms around him. "Welcome home," she whispered. The whole church erupted in applause. That moment wasn't about winning. It wasn't about pride. It was about grace. About love finding its way through the cracks of human failure. After the service, Tyler walked with us to the car. Emma held his hand like she'd known him forever. "Are you coming home for lunch?" she asked innocently. He looked at Maris. "If you'll have me." She smiled. "We'll always have room for family." When we got home, the air smelled like rosemary and sunlight. Maris set the table. Tyler helped me carry plates from the kitchen. The silence between us wasn't awkward anymore. It was peaceful. He looked around the dining room. "I finally see it," he said softly. "See what?" I asked. "What this house really is. It's not walls and furniture. It's heart. It's love built into every corner." I smiled. "Now you're speaking my language." He chuckled, shaking his head. "You were right all along." "About what?" "Blood doesn't make family. Love does." That afternoon, we ate together, all of us. Me, Maris, Emma, and Tyler. No anger. No past. Just laughter, forgiveness, and the simple joy of being home. Later that evening, while the sky turned orange, Tyler walked to the hallway filled with photos. He traced his fingers across the frames, each picture of a smiling face, each name engraved in gold letters. "You raised 47, he said quietly. 48 now," I corrected. Emma makes 48. He smiled. You changed their lives. No, I said softly. They changed mine. He turned toward me, his eyes glistening again. Thank you for not giving up on me. I nodded. That's what fathers do. Months later, something beautiful happened. The Daniel Mitchell Foundation hosted its first annual fundraiser. People flew in from across the country. There were speeches, laughter, and tears. As I stood at the podium, looking out at all the faces, my children, their children, families who'd been helped through our new programs, I saw Tyler in the crowd. He was volunteering, helping serve food, smiling genuinely. When the music started, Emma ran to the stage and grabbed the microphone. Grandpa Dan taught us that love makes family, she shouted proudly. The crowd cheered. My heart melted. I looked over at Tyler. He raised his glass and mouthed two words I'll never forget. Thank you. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the stage alone. The hall was quiet except for the faint echo of laughter. I looked at the empty chairs, the glowing lights, and thought about every road that had led here. Every child. Every tear. Every heartbreak. Every victory. It had all been worth it. I pulled out Tyler's letter again. The edges were worn now from being read too many times. I ran my fingers over his handwriting and smiled. People talk about legacy like it's money or land. But legacy isn't something you leave behind. It's something you leave within others. My legacy wasn't this house. It wasn't a name on a foundation. It was the love that had turned broken hearts into whole ones. And it was standing, alive and grateful, in every child I'd ever called mine. The seasons turned again. My hair grew grayer, my hands slower, but my spirit lighter. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, the front door opened without a knock. Emma ran in shouting, "Grandpa Dan! We're here!" Behind her came Maris and Tyler, carrying groceries. Thought we'd make dinner tonight, Maris said. Tyler set the bags on the counter and smiled. I make a mean roast chicken now. Do you? I laughed. Let's see if you've learned anything. As we cooked, we talked. We laughed. We remembered. When dinner was ready, we sat together at the table, the same table where so many of my children had once prayed before meals. Tyler reached out and held my hand. Dan, he said softly, thank you for not giving up on me. I looked at him, then at my daughter, then at Emma. That's what family does, I said. We don't give up on each other. After dinner, we stood on the porch watching the sunset. The sky glowed gold and pink, the same colors it had the night Tyler first tried to take everything away. Only this time, it felt different. It felt healed. Tyler took a deep breath. You know, he said quietly, I used to think this house was just wood and walls. Now I see it's a heartbeat. I nodded. It always was. He turned to me. And you were right. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who stands by you when the world turns away. I smiled. Now you understand. We stood there in silence, the three generations of my family, one old man, one daughter, one little girl, watching the day fade into peace. The porch light flickered on. Fireflies danced. The world felt gentle again. I whispered a quiet prayer. Thank you, Lord, for every second chance. Because family isn't perfect. It's patient. It's forgiving. It's chosen. And when I looked at them, at Maris's gentle smile, at Emma's laughter, at Tyler's humble eyes, I knew one thing for sure. We weren't just family. We were grace in motion. If you're watching this, take a second and think about the people who stood by you when life got hard. That's your real family. Not the ones tied by blood, but the ones who never let go. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what does family mean to you? Because sometimes, the strongest families aren't born. They're built, one act of love at a time.